times, we've seen concerns regarding the rail transport, especially the Abuja-Kaduna route. And last Wednesday was the peak of it so far. What do you make of this development, though?
Well, for me, the events of last Wednesday were quite shocking, and they were really quite frightening because, I mean, like you said earlier in the introduction, that the Abuja-Kaduna road in itself was sort of a hub for a lot of criminal activity, and now you have the rail line plying that same route, and then they're being bedeviled by the same criminal elements. So the question is, what has been done by the government? So for me, I would say that maybe instilling confidence back into people to understand that rail transportation is safe is really about tackling insecurity in this case, because that is one thing that we have as a common denominator. Either it's going by road or it's going by rail. I'll go back to something I usually say on this platform and every other one, that until our government understands that insecurity for one, insecurity against one is insecurity against all, we'll keep having these challenges. We cannot solve the issue of insecurity in isolation. So when we're trying to address the insecurity that surrounds the rail, it should be holistic, addressing it for the people who go by road, addressing it for people who go to schools that have been attacked and kidnapped. So the issue of insecurity is something that is quite fundamental and quite uniform in this conversation that I think that we need to have addressed. I need to have it addressed immediately, because either you like it or not, it will keep affecting various forms of commerce. Now it's affected road transportation, now it's affecting the rail. So the question is, where are they going to go next? Are people going to be afraid to go by rail? Are they going to be afraid to go by road? Not everybody can afford to travel by air. So what are we saying? Are we going to have certain level of commerce along a particular axis being grounded to a halt? Because for me, this thing needs to be addressed, and we need to look at it a lot more holistically.
Okay. Now, Professor, let me come to you on this. The point there is, we've also seen reports in recent times where rail tracks, were stolen, and it was quite shocking. It was the first time, personally, it was the first time for me to hear that rail tracks were stolen, dismantling the rail tracks and then taking, the tracks somewhere else. Now, this also posed some level of security challenges. Now, talk to us basically, how can we ensure safety and security on either the rail tracks or the rail route, and for trains and for people generally who ply train transportation?
Well, I guess Depo has actually done a great deal of the summary in addressing this particular issue you raised. The issue of security along the rail tracks, the issue of security even on the passenger routes, particularly between Kaduna and Abuja, it's an issue that has been taken with levity, really. And generally speaking, it is pervasive in the country, and we may not be able to take the rail issue in isolation. But specifically, rail security is perhaps one of the most guided across the world. There is hardly anything that you should be doing on the rail track that it will not be to the information of those that are in charge of the operations and services of that particular rail tracks. A number of rail tracks are also electrically wired, that if you actually get to a particular section, there will be an alert on those that are concerned to ensure that they track those who are trying to perforate into the rail track. The one for Nigeria is as you said, is very shocking, and I think we need to advance the technology of actually doing so. We need to monitor those rail tracks virtually now and then, to be sure that nothing is actually done to tamper with it, except again that we take the issue of security nationally as being very serious, rather than taking it with indolence as it is done across board. We might continue to have recurrence of this particular incident. But there are advanced technologies that can be put in place to track the rail tracks and be assured that nothing is actually done to it.
Staying with you, Professor, I know you have consulted and developed train services for different countries and corporations across the world. Now, if we compare some of the countries you have been to and helped with the situation in Nigeria, what are some of the peculiarities with the rail system in Nigeria? Before now, we've often been talking about, reviving train transportation or rail transportation in Nigeria across the country, especially for heavy-duty services and cargo and so on. What are the peculiarities in Nigeria from what you have noticed?
Thank you so much. Nigerian rail system has been neglected for a very, very long time. And before 1999 or so, for almost 25, 26 years, there seems to be nothing that has been done. And by 2006, there was a renewal of rehabilitation and the maintenance of those tracks. But more importantly, by 2006, a new agreement was actually done for the standardization of the gauge that we once experienced. In addition, there was a 25-year strategic plan for the rail renewal across the country. The peculiarity with the Nigerian environment is just a complete neglect of a rail system, of a transportation system that it is mostly safe, it is cheaper, and can carry heavy loads of freight across the length and breadth of the country. If you make a comparison between probably 3 countries that have actually participated in the work, Mexico, Brazil, and North Korea. Mexico has a rail track of about 27,000 kilometers. Brazil has about 29,000 kilometers. And Nigeria, with equal population sizes of Brazil, is just having as little as about less than 4,000 kilometers. So it is actually the act of development of rail transportation system. If we have those rail tracks that are long and across the length and breadth of the country, there are 3 other things that we associate with it. Human capital are very much developed. Technology of this are also very much developed. And of course, it brings about the impetus for social and political development of the country. But if this is actually absent as a result of neglect, then there is little or nothing that can be done to enhance the development of the rail service. So basically, it was a neglect that makes the Nigerian rail system absolutely different from others that are well known to me.
All right, now, Dikbo, if you see how the government is taking the revisiting of the rail transport system, it tells you that government is giving it priority to a great extent. That is from what we see. Yes. When it comes to the security of it, how much more do you think they should do right now to make things different? Because it seems like transportation by train is becoming the last resort of anybody right now.
Yes, so ideally, like Prof said, it is globally a cheap mode of transportation. So ideally, it's something, it's a mode of transportation that a lot of people should embrace. But in terms of issue of security and securing the rail tracks, we can also look at having CCTVs at different distances. Maybe it's every 1 kilometer on a particular line. He talked about sensors, and the sensors don't just let you know if you're trying to remove the rail tracks. The sensors let you know how fast the train is going, where the train is in real time, and other information that to feed back to the central command to let you know that, okay, you know what, another train is coming, you need to slow down maybe by 10 kilometers so that the other train can pass. You're approaching a junction, you're going too fast, you're going too slow. So that's the purpose of those sensors, and we need those sensors. We need CCTV as well, because I mean that's really we need technology. That's really what we have to do, because we can't have armed police on the trains like we have in some of these buses that go far distances. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. This is 2021. So we need to embrace technology to see how we can use technology to make the rail system and the train system safer and to be more effective. I mean, it's really just a remarkable way of mode of transportation, really, because you find that when we do have a functional rail system in Nigeria, a lot of urban centers will be decongested. I mean, back in the day, we had people who lived in Ibadan and worked in Lagos.
Exactly.
They did that every single day. They got to Lagos on time, they got back to Ibadan on time, and they lived their lives.
Yeah.
So those are part of the developments that the rail system is supposed to bring. And to be very fair and to be objective, the revitalization of the rail system by this current administration is quite admirable. It's quite admirable. And yes, can they do more? They can always do more. There's always room for improvement. We're talking about securing those rail lines right now. So these are the measures that I believe that they can put in place. The sensors, like Prof said, have the CCTV at various distances that can always monitor it to know that, okay, the trains are safe, this is where it is, this is what's going on in the environment, to ensure that people further embrace the rail system, because it is in itself an engine of development in various parts of the country.
When it comes to the issue of security of rail tracks, we see how, if we liken that to pipelines, we see how contracts to protect pipelines are given to, certain organizations or even people or communities and all of that. Has it come to the level where we have to start thinking about that now? Because especially when we've seen rail tracks being stolen, it's baffling actually.
Yes,
to see that rail tracks are dismantled.
You see them being melted somewhere for sale and all
turned
of that.
into something else.
Yes, so in terms of the securing it and going the model of the pipelines, I would say no. I'll still want to stick with technology, because in the end, one, we have to look at what is sustainable.
Right.
We also need to look at what is affordable. The question is, how many cameras would you need to have within the Abuja-Kaduna stretch, as opposed to having to hire maybe local communities or security agents or maybe some security firms to guard it? Because in the end, there's also room for human error. There's also a place for human corruption in it, where we know that, okay, you're the team in the community who guards the rail, and then we come to give you maybe 20,000 as opposed to maybe 15,000 you're being paid to say that, and then you're being interrogated by the police, and then you say, oh no, we're guarding the other end of it, we didn't know what happened here. So we eliminate
factor.
Yes, so we eliminate the human factor and the human error out of it. I would want to say that we embrace the technology bit of
but the
it
point
to
is,
ensure that it's safe.
but the point is, if we have the issue of sensors,
Yes.
where whatever you're doing to the rail tracks,
Yes.
is being detected somewhere.
Yes.
Now, if it is somewhere in the middle of nowhere, like we have, rail tracks going through forests and deserts and all of those things, before anyone is going to take off from the station or the substation to get to where someone is tampering with the tracks,
Yes.
would they not have finished doing whatever they want to do?
Yes, so that's why I say we need to look at it holistically and the different measures to put in place across the different stations. Are there different points across, for example, maybe Abuja to Kaduna by rail is maybe 14 kilometers. Can we look at having maybe 2 or 3 mini stations over there where people can be stationed? Can we have, in the absence of that, we have the sensors, we have CCTV, can we have a liaison with the police along the different communities that the rails pass, where we can always give them a call and say that, okay, can you help us look at what's going on within this particular section of the rail? So there are different ways to go about securing the rail and ensuring that it is safe for